Welcome to the Snowy Valleys Council meeting of the Thursday 22nd of March. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners, pay my respects to elders, past and present. Do we have any apologies? Apologies? Declarations of pecuniary interest?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd like to declare two reports. One, a pecuniary interest in 10.1, the management report is on the applicant for that development application on council committee, and a non-pecuniary interest in relation to 10.2 in relation to the Woolworths car park modification. We're currently dealing with the owner of that site and negotiating with an adjoining site, and I would like to declare that I leave the room in both of those matters, and for that 10.2 that Jim Mumford, the strategic and statutory town planner, represent council, and he'll be available. He's coming up for that report.
Mr Cox.
I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in the purchase of the Tumut RSL building. I'm not on the board and I haven't discussed the issue with any of the board members since this came about.
You're a member of the sub-branch?
Yes, but I'm not on the board and I haven't discussed it with the board or the executive.
Thank you.
And if I may, through the chair, you're going to stay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. Moved Councillor Larder. Seconded. Councillor Smith. In favour? Carried. Anything arising from those? Takes us through. The agenda's a little out of whack there. Should we
Move to the mayoral
move to, it's listed as number 8 on the agenda, but we'll move to the mayoral minute, which is on page 19. So we've got a recommendation to attend conferences there. I'm moving those because it's the mayoral minute. Any discussion on any of those? Councillor Cross, attend the Australian Smart Communities Conference in Melbourne, and the council consider sending a representative to the local government, forest and timber industry conference in August 2018.
I support both of those.
The only question is, do we normally send just one person to conference, or is it more?
Sometimes we send more, but given our budget, I think it's probably...
I appreciate that it's quite an extensive exercise.
Okay, that's fine, I was just saying that.
We'll put the motion then. Any further discussion? Put the motion, all in favour? It's carried. And the second one is listed under as a late report. Now a minute. And it's the draft roads management policy. And we promised to get this in. It's taken a little while, but we have it there. I'll move that. And it says that council endorsed the draft roads management policy and placed the policy on public exhibition for a minimum of 28 days. Any discussion on that? No discussion on the policy? Everyone familiar with it? Yeah. Okay, all in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Now, moving back to notices of motion, 7.1, page 13. Notice of motion to alter purchase of the RSL building. This was a notice of motion from the previous meeting, and it's resolved that it's suggested that council alter the motion that council remain as an interested party in the Tumut RSL building.
To me, that is really out of order. I mean, you've got an existing resolution, you can't alter it. You know, you have to rescind it and put a new motion up. You just can't.
Through the chair, the Code of Meeting Practice does allow you to alter resolutions as long as the intent is similar. And the legislation allows for that as well.
I'll have a look at that, but I'm okay.
It seems that the intent is very similar, it's
Yes.
just the wording. Got to move it, Councillor Cross? Moving that. Seconder? Councillor Isselman?
Thank you.
Further discussion on
You
that?
need 3 seconds, 2 seconders.
Not a decision.
Not a decision.
So you don't need 2 seconders through the
You
chair?
do for a rescission motion.
Not a decision.
You've got the rescission has been put up as listed in the document there with the 3 signatures on it. For it to get to the meeting, but the meeting process follows that you need a mover and a seconder.
Okay, we're clear there?
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? Put the motion, all in favour? And against? Councillor Pitcher against. Thank you. Next one is 7.2, steering group to expedite partnership and construction of a community asset to service the Tumut community. The recommendation is that Council establish a steering group with 2 councillors, 2 staff members to expedite a partnership with the Pratt Foundation for the construction of a community asset to service the Tumut community. 2 is nominate the Mayor and Councillor Cross to be on the steering group, and 3 that the General Manager and or his delegates provide staff to support the steering group, and that's known as a motion from Councillor Cross. Seconder, Councillor Isselman. Discussion.
Do you want me to say?
Yeah, sure.
Right. I thought it was time that we address the elephant in the room, because we keep on going round and round and round in circles with thinking about all the ideas that we could do with this money, and that if we had a steering committee, we could actually focus on the things that we want to do. My understanding is that the money needs to be spent in Tumut or Adelong, so I felt that it was appropriate that you and I, James, were on that committee. I put myself forward because, in the interests of gender balance, because I also have the time and am very, very interested in getting something happening there. It's not to say that other councillors can't have input, and I would really, really love you all to think about your wish list and give it to me or to James, to the Mayor, so that we can then have that for our very first meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Cross. Further discussion?
Well, I'll speak against it.
Yep.
I'm not in favour of it at all. I just think, I agree that the sentiment's 100% there, and I agree with Councillor Cross that, but I feel this is being addressed in consultation with Busy privately, and I'm not sure that we need to be putting any pressure on them when, I see it as a failure on our part that we haven't got anything shovel ready for them to invest into. We haven't done anything proactive for them to sign up to. There's been some questions raised about, previously about building an ad hoc sort of thing on a council premises on the corner with some computers or something or other, but that was all just innuendo. I've not seen anything concrete about any of that, but I just feel, given the fact that we're doing a consult, re the sporting infrastructure and pool, that's the logical place for Visi to buy into or invest into in the long term for the Shire, in my view. And I just consider that that's probably a discussion for all the councillors, not two.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure that we need to be tying the staff up unnecessarily with another steering group.
Deb, Councillor Isselman?
Yes, Paul. I can hear what Deputy Mayor's been saying, and I hear you saying the same thing as what the intent of this particular motion is about, and that is that there's been a lot of conversation going on about the pool, about the sports stadium and all those sorts of things, and it's a really positive discussion that's happening within the council in those directions. But I do believe that a focus from this council group on the matter of the VISI funding and where it will be best located needs to be channelled and focused on as well. So I support this motion in that Mayor and Councillor Cross are well situated to be able to focus on what the funding is about and make sure that that consultation between VISI and Council on which direction it should take is actually given that focus.
Any further discussion?
I'd also, Mr Mayor,
Are
I'd
you
also like...
closing debate?
Someone against.
Councillor Pritchard?
I'd speak against this motion because it's something that's going to be a massive investment in this community, and it needs the full council to be involved in it. Visi has been agitating to have something done for the committee for some time, and they want to have something that's shovel ready, and we can go ahead with it. They can put their name on it and be proud of it. I agree that we should get on with it. I had previously put up a motion that we form a committee to discuss matters with the major industrial people in this town. That's Snowy Hydro and Visi, and that was knocked on my head. This is really a similar thing to what was knocked on the head before, but I think this is mixed up, this motion. I think we have to look at how we want to engage with Visi in the first place, and then we can talk about who will be on the steering committee, on the committee at least. It's not a steering committee. A steering committee is something that's to be set up to form a committee. Anyway, I'd just move that I'd just vote against this because the whole council should be involved in it. I've been doing a lot of homework about this for some weeks, as you know, and I feel that I should be involved in it. I think all of the council should be involved in it.
At least everyone that wants to be involved with it should be allowed to be involved.
So, just listening to everyone, is it worthwhile changing it to the mayor and councillors on the steering committee, or do you want to leave it as it is, and vote on it and see?
Or interested
It's not a steering committee. It's wanting to establish a committee.
Mr Mayor, move into committee, please.
Very good idea. Thank you very much. Seconder, Councillor Smith. All in favour?
Aye.
Okay, here we go. Steering committee. So you're talking about establishing a group,
A committee.
or committee?
If I may, through the chair, when we had initial discussions on this, I wanted to avoid the formalities of a 355 committee because of the amount of effort it will take staff to report through that process. And council, as you've indicated, is already working through this process with various proposals going out to the community on. The reason for steering committee was that there's nothing under the Act about that, and the group would get together and help expedite the process and keep people informed along the way without all the requirements of administration surrounding those.
Sounds like a sensible idea to me.
I just see us going around and round and round in circles. I know we are focusing as a council on certain projects that we may be considering, which at this point in time are our council projects. They haven't been in any way identified as a busy direction. So we need to get some way of making sure that our busy funding that's available is given some direction. And to do that, I believe this committee could lead us. That's not making decisions without us knowing what's happening in any way, but it's giving us a focus and giving us an opportunity to take 2 people, and perhaps 3, and making sure that the busy funding is put into a focus by itself, so that we know, okay, busy funding's here. Now, does that busy funding decide pools or whatever? But we need to have some direction about that, and that's not happening at the moment.
I agree with that, but I would like to support that maybe more than one councillor. I think that's a little bit too small for that. And I know that some people are terribly passionate about this and probably like to be on the committee and given that opportunity.
I agree with Julia.
So, do we amend the recommendation to
So I would just recommend that we move the motion to say a committee be formed
Of interested councillors.
of interested councillors.
I'm having
But it's very positive that it's
Referring to
Yeah, I
the
think
general
it's
manager's
just
comment.
focus.
something has to happen.
Yes.
Move and second, are happy with that? Yes? How are we going, Susan?
Why do we need staff members?
We know.
Through the chair, I think the importance of the staff members is about having that information consistently with council and what our requirements will be along the process, just to provide that assistance to the councillors. Otherwise, if it's a group of councillors talking about discussions that might forward without what our boundaries might be around something, it might head off on a particular tangent. You might spend a bit of time on that, and then we'll find out that that's not a place that we can go for whatever reason.
Thanks, Susan.
I think the thing we need to be very clear about is that, you know, this is not a and I know this isn't the intention, Kate, but you know, I don't want Visi to feel as though, you know, we're not happy with. I mean, at the end of the day, we haven't given them anything concrete. You know, I think there's been a willingness from their part to be involved in something pretty special, and Visi have been waiting for us to do something. You know, and I'm sure that there's people out in the community that would be saying, "Oh, Visi's not doing anything," but you know, I think that needs to be relayed to the community, that goodwill or intent is there from them. It's just that we haven't got anything ready to go, and it's not their fault.
No.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
I think this is
But given we're in
Yeah, I think this, yeah.
positive act towards it, like, you know, get a smaller committee to get involved and people who are really interested and want to do it. Yeah, as a steering, you know, so we can actually see something happen, because obviously I'm probably not going to be interested in it because I don't live in Tumut, you know, like, and I think it's up to the Tumut councillors to be involved in that more. I really want to know about it, but speed it up by not having other people's inputs in it.
And I think I see it as, if we involve Visi in the discussions, it shows that we're actually serious, that we really want to work side by side to get something actually happening, because we haven't got anything at the moment.
I think they can give you some guidance along the way,
Exactly.
which is really what we need.
It might just not be about swimming pools and multi-purpose centres. It might be about something else that's really important as well that they may bring to the table.
With
We
their
may have the
experience.
opportunity to meet with some of them on Tuesday, Councillor Highlands also.
Yep.
But I think given that we're only 6 months into this council, and it's a new amalgamated council, I think we're getting things done, and I don't want to rush into anything. Also, I don't want to make sure that have this money allocated to a project that's not 100% right. And also, we've also got to do some DGR status things on the way to have it approved, and then Visi's got to say, or the Pratt Foundation have got to say that this is what they want. So what, they're happy to move to go back?
Just one last comment before Professor May. It is important to recognise, though, that this particular project has to be given a focus, and at the moment, the way it's going, we would have to have endless council conversations, and I agree that's an important part of it, but to have some of those conversations held with Visi and then brought to the table as a report would be a much more efficient way of dealing with the direction for that. So that's one of the reasons why I support this.
Thank you.
And I move to move out of committee.
Thank you, Councillor Listener. Do we have a second to move out of committee?
Councillor Benjamin, will you first?
Yep, so we've got a movement, Councillor Benjamin, and a seconder is Councillor Listener. All in favour? Okay, we're ready. So we now have an amended notice of motion. Is everyone clear on that? Kate, do you want to finish? Close the debate? Yeah.
I'd like to thank you for the discussion, robust discussion that we have had, and I really feel passionate about having a steering committee to really get focusing and get this money spent and get something happening for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Cross. Put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Well done. Thank you. Okay. Final one is notice of motion from me that Council investigates the acquisition of the Batman Forestry Workshop and associated land. The Forestry Workshop's not currently being used as a workshop. It's potentially quite useful for council. I'm not saying that we rush in and buy it. I'm just saying that we investigate. So that's fairly open. That's the motion.
Mr. Mayor, if we did investigate purchasing this, what would be?
Would you like to move that we? Someone? Councillor Lara and Councillor Risselman? Yep. Councillor Cross.
Mr. Mayor, if we did purchase this or look at purchasing it, what would be the
Possibilities?
possibility and the outcome?
The possibilities are endless, I'd imagine, but it could well be a new recreational or caravan park area.
And would we get a valuation for the property independently of?
I'm sure the forestry would probably have a valuation, but we could seek an independent valuation as well.
It could be made as a headquarters of the forestry commission when we move them down from Penatils.
They may well find that the difference between Batlow and Turnant Hills is quite different, but that's a possibility.
First step, Jim.
Thank you, Councillor. All right. Okay. Any further discussion? No? Put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Takes us to page. Joint organisations. That's on my page 21. Recommendation. Have we changed that recommendation? We have changed the changes to that.
Do you want me to comment generally?
Yes, please.
Through the chair, we've had contact from the Deputy Premier's office this morning, and we wrote to the Deputy Premier following previous resolutions and sought some clarification. Advised back today that both, or the Deputy Premier, the Minister for Local Government and the Premier will have to sign off on the letter coming back, so it's not forthcoming. However, the joint organisation's response is due tomorrow, so we have to make a resolution today in the absence of the information that we need to make the resolution. The Deputy Premier's office assures me that they will consider that and get back to us if that has any significant impact. We have also, since the report was written, received a letter from the Canberra JO, which in summary has established that they would welcome us as a full member in due course, and hence there's been some discussion about if we were to proceed on that basis, the councils that we would include in that there, and they are the Begar Valley Shire Council, Eurobodalla Shire Council, Goulburn Mullawaree Council, Hilltops. Did I get that right? No, I didn't get that right. Queanbeyan, Snowy Monero, Upper Lachlan, Wincarriby, and Yass Valley, Wingecarriby.
Very good.
Wasn't bad.
And there has also been some discussion for your consideration if you wanted to add an extra part to the bottom about consideration of being an associate member of another joint organisation, if that was of interest to councillors, we can add a sentence in about that as well. So just to continue talking, my report actually recommended the joint organisation with the Wagga Regional Council Group with Narandra and Leeton and any other council that wish to join. So if you wanted to move that as being us being an associate member of that group.
So I'll just wait for that to go on screen. Okay, everyone familiar with that? What's been proposed?
So that on the screen replaces the recommendation as it stands
Yes.
there. Is that what you're asking us
Yes.
to look at?
Yes.
Okay. So could we trial it out?
Given the advice that's been given
Yes,
since
that. I appreciate what you're
publication.
saying. Yes, and obviously we can't move with this because it's always so far and it's happening today. So
It's an evolving process,
Exactly.
Councillor Risselman.
and to our positive direction as well, which is wonderful.
Yeah, and are you moving?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Wright. Okay, please. Okay, discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I've put around the circular about going back some years. There's a small report that was put out by the Canberra government, a decade of self-government in the Australian Capital Region, dated 2000. So it's 18 years old. And the map that they had then was this map, which includes the present Canberra JO plus Tumut Shire. It doesn't include Tumut at that stage because we weren't amalgamated. But we have been working on this for 18 years. And in this, they asked me to put a comment or a small minor chapter in that book, and they published it when I was mayor of this Tumut Shire at that time. And I think you would like me to read it.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, we've all got it.
We've all got it, so.
Sorry.
Thank you. For not having the bell tolled.
But basically, we did a lot of homework, and we made making a start. At that stage, we didn't have the Riverina Shire attached to us, but we attached when the Riverina Shire was dissolved. We deliberately attached that part of the Riverina Shire, which lay between the Tumut board and the ACT government.
Excuse me,
to
Mr.
try
Mayor.
and-
Just, sorry, Councillor Pritchard, can we move to committee for Mr. Pritchard to continue?
Oh, look, I'm happy just to finish off and then we'll.
Yeah, so the Tumut Council, oh Jesus, let's go back to the water. So we Tumut Shire consciously obtained that portion of Yarralumna Shire which lay between the Canberra border and the Tumut border so that we had a common border with the ACT government. So we became immediate neighbours, and that was despite the fact there were very few ratepayers and a lot of obligation there. So we've been moving towards that direction for years, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to strengthen our new shire. And
I certainly agree with you, Councillor Pritchard. This document here really reinforces what we're asking for now and the way we've been moving in the last 18 years or so.
We do need to consider whether we're going to become associate member of the WAD, or is that something we've accepted? We'll leave that
Not in
motion.
yet.
Could we maybe just amend that to say consider and then wait to see?
It says there, says it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
That's right, John.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we've got all the other councillors in there, yes? Okay. All right, so we'll put the move in a second. We'll put the motion. All in favour? All in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you very much.
Just say too, that was great work on behalf of the Mayor and the General Manager in making sure that we had our best uniform on in Canberra to progress that claim, and yeah, well done.
Yeah, and look, I'd also like to acknowledge the work that Councillor Pritchard's done on this. He's very passionate about this, and he's certainly given us very sound and valid advice along the way. So sort of rely on his sage-like knowledge.
It's also marvellous lesson in patience, isn't it? 18 years before something.
It's a long gestation period. Okay, governance and financial reports. Just to get teeth into something here. 9.2. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Cross, Councillor Wright. Any statements, any questions, any discussion? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Moving on. 10.1. Thank you. This is development application DA06/18, Murray's Crossing Road, Tumbarumba. The recommendation is that council grant consent for the erection of a new dwelling and detached garage in Lot 1 DP 1159439 Murray's Crossing Road, Tumbarumba, subject to conditions 1 to 26 as detailed in the report. The responsible manager has been Robert Cox. Move that. Seconder, Councillor Ham. Discussion?
Yes, in Director Cox's defence, on page 29, social, I think you're putting some pressure on him that it's going to increase the population through the development of the dwelling.
Any other comments? Take serious ones as well. No others? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Any? Oh, it was unanimous.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to 10.2. Parking provision at Woolworths Supermarket, 29 to 37 Fitzroy Street, Tumut. Mr. Mumford, would you like to take a seat at the table, or this purpose of the report is to enable council to consider modification application for the reduction in the required parking provisions from 86 to 65 spaces at the Woolworths Tumut Supermarket. Mr. Mumford, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, this is one of those things that has been in existence for quite a while, and we haven't really been aware of there being a problem. When the Woolworths development was put to council originally, we applied what was in the development control plan to say we need X number of car parking spaces. Woolworths, when we hadn't put those in, immediately it became obvious that they weren't going to work. They were too narrow for Tumut conditions. The aisle widths were too narrow as well, even though it complied with what was in the DCP, and it just didn't work. So Woolworths changed it to be angle parking, so you had the proper circulation and it worked properly, but they never approached council about making that change. And because we didn't get any complaints, we just let it go as it was. And that's not at all unusual, but usually we go through a process of approval, because the development control plan is just a guideline, and it's based on averages that the roads and maritime services provide. So all the time, they just didn't go through the process. What's important here is that it came up because as council was aware there was a problem with those reverse vending machines for recyclables, and then it came to notice that, well, what they've got isn't what was in the consent. And really the purpose of this report is to give council the opportunity of looking at the situation and rectifying it. Or alternatively, as there's the option there, enforcing what was in the original approval and say, well, you've got to provide X number of additional spaces somewhere.
Yep.
Mr. Mumford, just on the plan that's there now, it's obviously not the original one, but the one with the angled parking where they've got the trees, why have they not been, why have they got trees growing in the middle of the car spots?
Before we move on, do you want to move it so we can discuss it? Yeah. And a seconder? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Cross. Yep, go on.
So just in relation to those car spots, there's a few car spots there that seem to, on this limited information, seem to meet requirements for a car spot, but there's shrubs in there.
Again, that comes from the development control plan, providing shade trees in car parks. But you're quite right, yes, they could go and they could be car parks. But again, that would mean you're going against another part of the DCP.
Because those trees that are there don't shade
Aren't they
anything.
trolley collections point?
There's the trolley collection point as well, yes.
There are, but they're next to.
If you look at the actual photograph, you'll see that the trees that are there, they're just nothing trees.
They certainly don't shade anything.
They don't shade anything, they're just a hindrance.
Well, they might if they grow.
Yeah, give them time.
2000, wasn't it, when you opened that?
I can't remember.
Is there a need for those additional car spaces to be there?
Well, no, that's the point I was making, that the DCP being a guideline that's setting out a numerical standard and saying that's deemed to satisfy. If you do this, you will comply. But they do things a different way. They can still achieve the purpose. For instance, in Tumut, the peak periods are slightly different to, say, other places because of the shift workers. Right? So you won't have those concentrated peaks, you'll have several peaks. So it can still work fine, and apparently it has worked fine.
And given the proposal to increase the parking in the adjacent car park, it should alleviate a lot of this once that's done.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a point that if this is now ratified and the number of car parking spaces is considerably less than the original development application, might this not have an adverse effect on other major retailers in the area in the provision of their car parking spaces where they have perhaps complied with the original orders placed upon them?
I'll take that as a comment. Unless you want me to take it as a question.
Question.
It may. Yes.
Through the chair, we're in the process of developing new control plans, and we'll have a set standard that will go out across the whole new Snowy Valleys region. This new information to hand will be accounted for part of that process.
Thank you.
Just given that we seem to be dealing with common sense as opposed to rules, can we ask that they remove those trees?
That's up to you, councillor.
Could we add that into the recommendation that they create 2 existing car parks by?
No, we won't. That'll be a separate one. We'll have to do it later.
If I may, through the chair, maybe that's something that we can consider as we start to revise our planning policy.
Okay. Any further discussion? How about we put the motion? All in favour? Against? Any again?
Yes.
Yeah. Unanimous, that one as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mumford. Good to see you again. Okay, we're moving on to committees now, 11. Minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement meeting on the 7th of February, received and noted.
Move.
Thank you, Councillor Isselman. Councillor Ham. Are there any recommendations there? No?
I think the main thing that came out of that was that to advertise for a new position for the committee, which is being done. So thank you to
Okay.
Mrs. Hart.
All in favour? Carried. Local Traffic Committee. Some recommendations there.
Move that they be accepted. All as one, please.
You're moving
4.1, 4.6.
4.1, 4.2, 4.3 and all up to 4.6, the whole one? Yep. Seconded? Seconded. Councillor Cross. On which one of those was it?
69.
4.5, there needs to be a change on that, which is Saturday the 19th of May. So obviously a typo there.
I'm happy with that change.
Okay. Okay, any discussion on that? Councillor Smith, did you have any?
Just a date change, Mr Mayor,
Just a
that
date
should be communicated to the Backlow Development Committee that the date change has been noted.
Okay, thank you. All in favour? Carried.
Can I just ask a question with regard to previous business of that committee as to whether we could find out what's happening with the overtaking lane that's previously gone through council on the outskirts of Adelong on the Snowy Mountains Highway? There was an area cleared there 2 years ago.
I believe there's a feasibility study being done there. It's been funded. Mr. Christensen, can you enlighten us?
Through the chair, I have been verbally advised from Representative RMS that they have a funding application going forward for an overtaking lane in that area. Expectation management is only a funding application that RMS put forward at this stage. There's no commitment to undertaking the work.
Thank you. Any further questions on that? Okay, we've got the minutes of the local traffic committee. They're on page 70 and there's some recommendations on Mr. Christensen, did you want to mention Travis Street at all?
Yes, through the chair, there was a discussion at that meeting in general business with regards to a future report that will be brought forward to the traffic committee proposing to convert Travis Street into a cul-de-sac street, closing it at the Quartz Street end, which is also known as Grahamstown Road to some people. We'll undertake community consultation with that regards and get some data with regards to traffic issues there and bring that to council for future discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Minutes of the Tumbarumba Youth Council.
Move that they're noted.
Move they be noted. Councillor Isman, Councillor Wright. There's no recommendations there. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. Minutes of the Batley Development League. Someone move those. Councillor Smith. Councillor Wright. Okay, all in favour of those? Carried. Minutes of the Batley Development League, 7th of March. Yeah. Councillor Isselman? Moving the recommendations?
Moving the minutes.
Moving the minutes. Seconded. Councillor Larter. All in favour? Okay, we've got some recommendations there. Council follows through with the RV status for Batley and the Council investigates how RV visitors to the town can have showground access.
Haven't we already dealt with it?
It certainly came up in discussion in the last 2 months.
Everyone happy with that recommendation?
Yeah, Move that recommendation.
Do you have a second? Councillor Isselman. Discussion?
Is the toilet block been renewed there yet?
Councillor Pitcher, most of these vehicles have their own toilets in them, and they use the dump points. So I think that the other ones would be, vehicles without that would encourage them to use the caravan park, I believe.
Through the chair, the works you're asking about at the showground,
Yes.
and they have commenced.
Hopefully they're completed
Well,
on
they're
Saturday
waiting.
for show day.
They've been working.
They'd want to be open by Saturday.
Yeah. Did we put that recommendation?
Yep.
Okay.
And can I maybe also ask that we investigate with the organisation of Forbes as to whether they can be weaved into the RV scenario?
Through the chair, can you?
When we went to the local government conference, there was an organisation that essentially funds itself through the local government association and puts in a caretaker at sites like the Batlow Showground. And
Chair, is that the CMCA?
I think
so,
so,
the Caravan and
yeah,
Motorhomes
yeah.
Association. So that's the group that does the approval for the RV status.
RV? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Local SVC team.
And the third component to that recommendation. So you're doing that into 3 parts. Receiving, do part 1, then doing part
Yeah.
2 of that. Unless you were doing those together.
No, I didn't do those together. So the second part, we'll call that, local SVC team, we'll call that B. Thank you. And that is that any request for work done by local council teams must be directed through proper council channels.
Is there a history behind that? We need to know.
Wouldn't that be operational?
Through the chair, if I may, while we're writing back to the Batlow Development League regarding the matters that they've asked us to pay attention to, you'll note that a number of those matters are operational. I think the essence of this part of the resolution is essentially that if they are to follow this process where they put their minutes up as a 355 committee and they then go on to the next council agenda, which might be a month away, council then considers them and makes a resolution. Something like the barbecue matter they've raised in here could take us 3 months to resolve, whereas if they would pick up the phone, lodge a CRM, it could all be resolved in under a week. So just for efficiency reasons, I think it's this is just to write back in that letter advising on all those matters and advising them, and we'll flesh that out a little bit further to say that if they use our customer request system, then we'll be able to deal with these matters more expediently for them.
Just point of correction, if I may. I think the reference to the barbecue is from the Talbingo Association minutes, not the Batlow Association, so maybe we might put the same recommendation in the Talbingo's minutes.
True.
If I may, there was also a discussion about the fact that residents residents of the community in the past have often been able to just request things to be done from the local council employees, and that's been a real problem to some of the employees because they didn't want to just refuse out of hand to seem uncooperative, but at the same time they have their managers to report to, and they can't use time and or resources to privately organise work for residents, and that's part of that request.
Exactly. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Okay, put that motion, all in favour? Okay.
Just one other question, if I may, please, from the...
Didn't we get a move in a second? Oh. Sorry, we've gone a long way around this. The recommendation should have just been one with all of them, and anyhow, I should.
We need to have that
just
correction.
operational, that? Do we need to?
Oh, we'll let them know anyway. So, do you want to move that
I'll
one?
move.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor.
Mr Mayor, could we possibly just come back to these minutes and have an update for next meeting on the progress of the upgrading the Literary Institute?
Through the chair, I'll add that to the workshop agenda.
That'd be lovely, thank you. Great, thank you.
We'll add it to the workshop. Did you? Do we have a seconder first?
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Benjamin. Mr. Christensen.
No, Mr Mayor, I've been invited to speak at the next Outflow Development League meeting, and I'll provide an update on the items that they've raised in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. We better put that to them again. All in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience on that one. We're at Talbingo now. Now we've got a slightly amended motion there.
This is in relation to the list of recommendations.
So we're just moving rather than all those points that are listed there. We're just moving that council basically receive the minutes of the Progress Association and on the 7th of February 2018 and refer the matters for staff consideration and report back
Move.
to them. Yep. Second, Councillor Wright. Any discussion?
Just the update of that recommendation in relation
We'll
to.
put that as well. Thank you. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Tumbarumba Library, Friends of the Library. Council receive the minutes of the Friends of the Library and refer to the matter of fencing for consideration in the 2018-19.
So we just go back to finish that resolution off, so we can see the minutes.
Just have a slight break.
Council advised Talbingo Progress Association. That any requests for work to be done are to be directed through proper constitutions.
Councillor Ham's anxious to move that, I can see. Do we have a second that? Everyone wants to be a friend of the Tumbarumba Library. Councillor Cross, thank you.
Can we possibly, sorry, I know you should have done this before, think of putting in there as an operational matter?
Already voted on that.
Yeah, I know. I do apologise.
I think we can incorporate that in our correspondence.
That's fine.
That.
All right, I'll do that.
Councillor Ham?
Can I speak on that library one? Is the fencing, and from what I read, they want $5,000 and they're looking for approval, who to ask for basically for that. Can that be just brought up in the next workshop so we can understand what they want?
Through the chair, yes, we can provide you an update on that. Staff are already onto that matter and putting it in for budget consideration.
Great.
Which highlights point through the chair that should actually say for consideration in the 2018-19 budget. It's just missing one word.
Okay, no further discussion. Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Someone like to move down confidential? Thank you, Councillor Benjamin.
Second.
Councillor Smith. report on confidential.
In relation to item 12.1 on the agenda, confidential agenda, regarding the purchase of the Batlow Cannery site, Council has resolved the Council the Council purchase the Batlow Cannery site, authorise the General Manager to apply the common seal to the contract of sale and any administrative documents, and the Council authorise the General Manager and the Mayor to negotiate the purchase within the budget allocation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Meeting closed.